Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Old Rob has finally lost it. Not only is he stuck with the Knives of Alaska Featherlight Hunter that he can't get rid of, he now has two. How on earth did this happen? Stay with me, guys. We'll talk about it. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 14 April 2014 and I'm coming to you tonight with a fourth and quite unexpected part. And I really hope it's the last part in the Knives of Alaska Featherlight Hunter Saga. Let's recap, shall we? The KOA Featherlight Hunter started as a sharpening project for my YouTube subscriber and sharpening customer Chris. He bought a brand new knife and shipped it up to me because the factory edge left a lot to be desired. And for a garden variety, normal sharpening job and spot treatment, you know, disassembly, clean lube, polish washers, adjust action, etc. And he did mention when he sent the knife that he wanted to know if he needed to pay me a little extra because, let me get my pointer out, maybe, because right here in this area of the blade was a chip, a little tiny chip, but a chip nonetheless. And I looked at it when I got it and let Chris know it was very small and it would come out during the normal course of sharpening. So I sharpened the knife, the chip was gone, took the knife apart, did what I do. When I did that, I found in the pivot area, and this pivot uses a brass bushing, sort of a one-sided bushing that rides on one liner, and then a precision honed through hole for the pivot. I thought it was a really nice design and pretty precise, I thought. And when I got it open, I found a huge gouge in that bushing and some actual marring on the surface of the blade right around the pivot. Something had happened, a tool had slipped, a gouge had been put in the washer at the factory, and they assembled the knife and sent it on its way to its end user. I thought, that's kind of odd. I went ahead and polished the bushing face, and it really didn't affect the operation of the knife, and the marring on the blade tang in this area was fairly minor. It was a little of an embarrassment for KOA, but I thought, it doesn't affect the function of the knife. We'll just put it back together and see what she looks like. So I did put it back together. The action was nice and smooth. The lockup was pretty good. Even the blade was pretty good. The thickness behind the edge wasn't atrocious. So I put it back together, cycled the knife a few times, opened it and closed it, and I started to examine my edge again, and lo and behold, what do you think I saw right here? The chip was back. So I closed the knife and I looked, and yeah, you guessed it, this standoff was contacting the blade when closed, causing the chip. The way the knife is designed to work is this first standoff is designed to fall in this area to stop the blade, but it wasn't doing so. So I talked to Chris. We sent the knife back to Knives of Alaska, instructed them to replace the knife with a good one that didn't have these characteristics. He also decided he wanted a pocket clip added to the knife, and they were to ship it back to me so I could sharpen it, send it back to Chris. Everybody'd be happy, right? Wrong! About 3 weeks later, after some excuses, I get a package in the mail from Knives of Alaska, open it up, open the knife, and I saw no chip in this area, but I did see a very familiar edge. Yeah, it was the edge that I had put on the knife in the first place. And then I looked inside the knife, looked down at this standoff, and what did I see? I saw that they took the same knife we sent them back that was defective. They ground the standoff flat to clear the blade. They put a new pivot bushing in, installed a hideous pocket clip, a tip down pocket clip that borrowed the pivot for one of its mounting locations, and they sent the knife back. Not only was the standoff ground flat, not only was the marred blade still in the knife, but when they installed the new pivot bushing in the pocket clip, the blade centering was so far off that it actually touched at the tip the right side scale as you're looking at it. So I got a hold of Chris, sent him some pictures. He called KOA, asked us again to send the knife back, and and I did. We asked specifically for a new knife. Don't try to fix that one again. No pocket clip, because not only was the pocket clip affecting the blade centering in the pivot, it was also far too big and strong for a knife this light, and it was ugly and bad scene. So then they sent this knife, a brand new knife. Let's see, issues with this one were as follows. This blade, if you notice how broad the bevel is, especially at the base, that's because of the factory sharpening job. And I've now had two more of these to look at, and we'll get to that in a minute. What they did to fix the crashing into the standoff problem is they have started to sharpen these blades so far up the blade that we've got about a 40 thousandths thick blade behind the edge. So the edge grind was horribly obtuse, and when we got to the base of the blade, somebody had slipped and it got real shallow and broad, and I had to put this overly broad edge on it that you're looking at just to clean up the big gouge that they had done at the factory. So we had an edge that was very shallow and broad at the base that came to the tip, and there was almost no bevel, and it was super obtuse. So, you know, we were probably like 16, 15 degrees per side back here, at least on this side, and then like 25 degrees per side at the tip. So it looked horrible. It wasn't consistent. It wasn't symmetrical. Blade centering wasn't very good. This time it was off to the offside from the lock bar, to the left as you're looking at it, and there's a ton of blade play, and it's up and down. Don't know if you can hear that, but it's bad. Can't get rid of it. The knife locks up, I think, way too early for a liner lock. I mean, I don't know if you can see that very well, but not even the whole lock bar is engaged with the blade tang, and it must be engaging far too close to the pivot, like here instead of out here, which allows the blade to roll. It feels like up and down blade play. So I've got this one as good as it can be, and if you notice, I've got all the tension off the lock bar, and it's really stiff, and that's just to get the blade somewhere near center. So, you know, I figured I would just keep this knife, throw it in my son Connor's hunting pack. You can use it for a skinning knife, whatever, process game. It's not going to fold on them. It's not going to cut great, but, you know, what the heck. It is what it is. And that was kind of where I left you guys in part 3. Well, a week, 10 days ago, I went out to get the mail at work, and what did I see? I saw another overly large Knives of Alaska box from Denison, Texas. And I opened it up and I thought, huh, did they send me some kind of promotional gift, some kind of a, sorry we couldn't make a good knife, here's some free swag? I didn't know. I opened it up. What did I find? That! with a packing slip that indicated that a return postage check had been sent, which is true. They sent me a check for $10 to make up for the return postage I had spent sending knives back to them. But that had been, you know, a month ago, and so they were just recording on the packing slip that they were now sending the replacement knife, which they had already sent a month prior. So not only did they have trouble building a knife, I'm assuming this was an accident because, as we'll see as we look at this knife, it wasn't like they got it right and they wanted to show Chris and me what a good one looked like. So I think they just double shipped the replacement knife. Oh golly. So let's look at the attempt number 4, shall we? Blade centering on this guy, I think, is pretty close to center. Maybe just a hair off to the non-lock side, which is kind of interesting, I think, because look how free the blade is. I mean, that's ridiculous. I've not had one of these with the blade that free. I thought, wow, well, as free as that blade is, I should just be able to tweak this pivot and bring that blade to dead center. And by the way, when I got it, it was probably there. So I put the old trusty Torx bit in the pivot screw and started cranking. Guess what? Couldn't turn it. I thought, wow, that's odd. I don't remember them having Loctite in this knife from the factory. So I cranked a little harder and still nothing. I thought that's really odd. So I backed the screw out and noticed it was pretty darn long. Well, the problem was, my friends, the pivot screw was longer than the female threads in the pivot. So my screw was bottomed out and my knife wouldn't tight. What I did then was take the screw out, and I've actually taken some material off the end of the screw, and this is actually tighter than it was when I got it. I need to take more off, but I just sort of wanted to leave it like this so I could show you. I gotta say this though, the liners and bushing face must be pretty parallel, because even with that free of a blade, and I really don't have side-to-side play, just a tiny bit, a little bit. The blade's very well centered, so I think once I get the screw to the right length, I'm going to have a really nice mechanism. Now, I don't know, you know what the heck, while we're here, let's take these screws out. I can find the right size Torx bit, and that's not it. I got a hunch. I do. Talk amongst yourselves, guys. There we go. I got a hunch. I'm not going to tell you what it is until I discover it. Okay, this is the knife with the free blade and the long screw. Let's just see, shall we? So this is KOA number 4, and that's the screw. Here is KOA number 3. Here we go. Well, doggone it. See any difference, boys? There's the problem right there. I got a feeling that they used a screw from a pocket clip knife. That's what I think has happened here. Well, this is going to require some assembly. Okay. You try doing this with the camera in front of your face and can't see the knife. Okay, I want to crank that sucker all the way down. Let's see what we got. Hey, I think it might be a little tighter. Yeah, still got a little blade play. So you see what I got to do, huh? I need to, I could swap screws. Nah, I'm not going to do that because I think I'm going to give one of these knives back to Chris. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take the material off that screw that needs to be removed. And I'll take the material off that needs to be removed and make it right so it's adjustable, and on we'll go. But I think that's kind of odd. You know, how out of control are the processes at Knives of Alaska? You know, once again, somebody had to put this knife together and see that the blade was way over to the left, and they had to be able to tell, didn't they, that the knife felt loose in the handle and had a bunch of play. Do you think maybe when they did that, you know, they might maybe tried to adjust the pivot as anybody would do during assembly of a knife with an adjustable pivot? Don't you think it occurred to them, well, gee, I can't get the knife tight, but I'm out of screw. Do you think maybe somebody might wonder if what the problem was? Do I have the wrong screw in? Nope. Put it in a box and ship it. And how does that screw end up in the process? If it's a non-pocket clip knife, how does that long screw end up at the assembly station for this non-pocket clip knife? I don't know what they need. Do they need a quality manager? Do they need a process engineer? I don't know. Apparently common sense isn't getting the job done at Knives of Alaska. They just seem to be throwing these green knives together, and it doesn't even seem like they're hoping that they get to the end user in a way that represents their company well. I mean, this is their 4th attempt to send a knife to the same person who is crucifying them on YouTube, and frankly, rightly so. Remember, $70 for this sub 2 ounce, rather crude D2, overly thick behind the edge, bead blasted hunting knife. Yeah, bead blasted D2 hunting knife. Does that sound like a rust problem to you coming down the road? I think so. Anyway, I did sharpen this at a lot steeper angle than attempt number 3, and the base of the edge wasn't near as bad. So this is like 17 degrees with a 20-degree micro bevel, and it's still, you know, every bit of 35 or 40 thousandths behind the edge. Not going to be a great skinner. I guess it's a decent utility knife. That's about what it's good for. So just thought you guys would like to know. They can't keep track of their inventory. They don't know what returns they've sent and which ones they haven't. And when they have an angry customer who's received 3, count them, 3 bad knives, they send them a 4th bad one. I don't like to deliver this news. I like knife companies. I want them to do well. The more variety we have of quality products as knife consumers, the better off we all are. So, you know, guys, let's keep Knives of Alaska in our prayers. Let's hope that they watch these videos, that they take them to heart, that they ask for help, that they fix what's wrong. And until then, we as a knife community need to hold them accountable. What does that mean at this point? It means that I advise my viewers not to buy their stuff, especially their folders. I'm not too experienced with their fixed blades at all. Just from the appearances that I see, they don't seem to justify the price that they sell for. But don't have any first-hand knowledge there. I sure do with this knife, though. That's all I have for tonight, guys. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word is sharp, sometimes sharper than others. Have a good night, guys.